Hello, Jonas.
Hello, good to see
Nice to
you.
meet you.
Yeah.
Can you please introduce yourself and tell us where you're here in Cologne?
Of course. My name is Jonas Grimeland. I'm here showing my short, Tjänsteman or Serviceman in English. We had a screening yesterday and a screening today, so I'm excited to see the film and show it. It's actually the first time I see it in a big screen. Due to COVID, it's been an issue seeing having events like this. So for me, it's really exciting coming to Germany and be able to see the film with audience in a proper way.
Awesome. That's great for you.
Yeah.
So can you please tell us a little bit about the project? So what is the film about?
Of course. The film follows sort of an old friendship, and I think of it more as a film about friendship than it is a police movie, even if it does follow a small case within an evening as a police officer who comes to an old friend trying to stop the party, finds some drugs in one of the kids' bedroom, which is obviously serious, but the more sort of human aspect is how to deal with your old friend in that situation. So that's and I wanted to make the film more of a breakup movie than a crime thriller somehow.
Well, this is actually exactly what I loved about the film. Is that on paper you have the ingredients for like a big, action movie or something like this. You have the police, you have the party, you have everything, and you have men who seem, maybe able to fight. Or
Yeah.
And what I loved about it is that actually it was more of an intellectual game, let's say.
Yeah.
So, how did you get to this story? What were the first elements you thought of when you started working on it?
I actually wanted to make a film about loyalty, and especially loyalty within sort of the rural areas of Norway. I'm from a small town myself, so it was good to sort of draw some inspiration from that. So I started talking to a friend of mine who's a police officer there and grew up there. So we talked a lot about his challenges in everyday work, and kind of what struck me is that it wasn't about sort of big spectacles or anything like that. It's very human interactions, and it's very human sort of challenges that you meet in an everyday sense. And I didn't want the film to portray something that wasn't real, when I felt like the reality of those challenges was what was the interesting part of the film, really.
That's very interesting. And so, yeah, absolutely, the film deals with loyalty, and I think it also deals with legitimacy.
Sorry?
It also, I think, deals with legitimacy.
Yeah.
The fact that one of the friends is now wearing a uniform is putting some barriers between them. So
Totally.
I thought this was interesting as well.
And for me, it was like the uniform. The friend doesn't see him in the uniform. He only sort of realizes that throughout the film, like, oh shit, you're a different person now, and because it's so easy, basing this off of my friend, to see him in a uniform, I don't really think about him in that role. I think he is much more aware of his own role than people around him sees in it, because they know him from we were kids. So I think, and in this film, I wanted to feel like I wanted the audience to not be sure who to root for. It's not really about who you root for, but it's also who comes out on top. And I wanted the sense that the police officer had wanted to be part of a community that, due to his new role, couldn't be, in a way. And that his friend, even he's taken in and taken away, he kind of ends up on top because he's part of what the police officer wants to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is very interesting, and also maybe not to say too much about the film, but the friend of the police officer is also trying to remind the police officer of who he is as a human being, reminding memories or stuff like that, in order to break down the barrier between them. And so I think this is very interesting.
Actually, and he kind of realizes that he's not being able to break through, and there's a naivety to the police officer thinking that he is still a part of it as well. He's kind of, when he sits there at the party, he's looking around him and it's kind of feeling peaceful somehow. And then while he's then taken out of it, he goes into this role And I think like with the scene with the kids upstairs, I think he's actually quite good in the balance. He's balancing the role quite well. It's only when he comes outside and is again confronted with his old friend that his naivety is sort of shown, and that he, when he's in the car at the end, he still thinks that they can talk about casual things, but that's not an option anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So was it fun to shoot this film?
Absolutely. We did 3 nights in a place called Flattar in Norway. It's we actually had a little bit of funding on this one, so we had this crew, and it was sort of possible to have the do it in the way that we wanted. And I think like there was obviously challenging aspects in. I thought like some of the shots was quite challenging. Like I was blocking it a bit differently in some scenes, so it ended up really being. So there's a few totals that we didn't end up using. So it ended up being a very close film. Like a lot of close-ups are really like kind of like tight in a way, which I think actually ended up being a positive sort of like claustrophobic feeling in a way. So I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I think it's the right length as well for itself. Like it sort of like tells the story quite precisely, and it's very much how it was written.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you say there are a lot of close-ups, but I think there's also a progression. There is this magnificent opening shot, and which is at some point zooming in, and then it's going into the story.
Yeah.
One of the elements of the film that is great as well is the music.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about it?
Absolutely. Like the opening track, and which is also the end track, is a Norwegian rapper. And I thought it was cool that to get an insight into these 2 police officers being young in a way. Like there's an aspect of like that they are just playing. Obviously, it's in Norwegian in the beginning, so you don't really understand the lyrics. But you get the sense that they are just playing around in the car, and then when they're getting closer to the house that they're go into, they kind of take on the role in a way. So I think like both at the end, beginning and the end, that sort of like encapsulates the film quite well, and it sort of starts off as being a playful and like youthful thing, and then turn the meaning at the end in a way, being a bit more gritty.
That works very well.
Yeah. And I think like in the part as well, we have some few like background stuff, and just to create an atmosphere of and I didn't want it to be too dark in a way. I didn't want the party to be too destructive or anything like that. I wanted people to feel like they could have been there, and that it's not like too dark of a scene.
This is true.
Yeah.
So Serviceman is the film you're presenting here in Cologne. You have made all the short films before, and you will do all the short films after.
Yeah.
Why do you make films?
Sorry?
Why do you make films?
Well, I make films. I just kind of find it the ultimate way of expression and collaboration. I think like for me, obviously to show it and get feedback is a big thing, and getting like and making emotions in a way is a big thing. But for me, it's I love the collaboration. I love the sort of projects in a way, and like. And I often start with an idea of a character, and then or a dilemma, or something like that. So and then sort of spin from there. But for me, it's film. You know, it's immersive. It's sort of fun. You can cry and laugh in the same scene. I think that dynamic of emotions is very special.
Absolutely. So this is great. This is great to hear. Great to learn. So are your are there some similarities between your other short films and Servicemen? What are the common elements that you can find in terms of writing?
Totally. Like I think what I see, especially like I think a few years back I wouldn't really see it. But as you start working and like starting making several films, you kind of see what you're drawn to. So for me, I think I often actually make about sort of the friendship and the breakup of what what you see in Serviceman and the two friends breaking up, I think I'm very interested in what are the limits of friendship, or the limits of relationship, and the roles that you are portraying versus the roles that you are owning, like having inside.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so I think like that dynamic of character, and I think it's really interesting. And then obviously I do enjoy working in the environment, or the somewhat environment where I'm from, like the rural areas. I think you can isolate situations and get them more pinpoint in a way. I also like that it's not all in some city apartment in a way. I kind of like that to bring it out and sort of see something else that people haven't seen as much.
And it creates more intimate atmospheres
Yeah,
as well. So.
it's both vaster and intimate at the same time, and you can make situations that are sort of specific but represent something bigger in a very like easy way. Well, not easy maybe, but a different way.
That's very interesting. One of my last questions: what kind of a director are you on set? So, how are you working? You know, because you were talking about collaboration. So, how like every director almost has different strategy, like based on their personality and everything, in order to be able to get the best from everyone on the team. So, how do you work with people?
Because I actually I come from a very sort of pedagogic background. Like my family are all teachers, and I have a teaching degree as well. And I worked a lot in production, like next aside to the directing. So I think for me, the collaboration is an important part. I think it's important for me to, well, I think it's important in general for film, for the crew and cast to have an understanding of the wider sort of why we're making this film, so they can make decisions that they are themselves and feeling like an ownership to the film. I think Serviceman is somehow special in terms of that we shot it very directly the way it was written. Like so you can almost see the script and you see the film and it's very on point. Often I like, especially working with kids, I use a lot of improvisation. I think you need to get them into a sort of a ownership of the material. And that I feel safe in doing changes that I feel is their own, you know. So for me, I like to create sort of the boundaries of the project and then feel free within those boundaries. Also, like with the visuals, I don't have such a strong sort of like cohesive visual. I look at each project and see what they references and like whatnot for what is right for this project. So and I also work with a lot of the same people time and time again. Yeah.
That's very interesting. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really wish you the best on the film festival circuit.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's great you were able to screen it on the big screen. So.
Yeah, absolutely. This is and being this beautiful place. It's great, you know.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas.
Thank you very much.